the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is starting 3 days of talks with senior Chinese officials in Shanghai and then in Beijing this week, with U.S. China ties at a critical point over numerous global disputes. Now, Antony Blinken's 3-day trip starting today comes after the approval of a $61 billion aid package for Ukraine by the U.S. House, and in the midst of fears in Western capitals that Chinese aid to Moscow for manufacturing of military hardware is ramping up. This is also Antony Blinken's second trip to China after a high-stakes diplomatic mission to cool U.S. China tensions in June last year, and he is expected to hold meetings with senior Chinese officials that includes Foreign Minister Wang Yi. And joining us now, Laura Westbrook, live from Hong Kong. Thank you so much, Laura, for joining us on NDTV. You know, as Mr. Blinken heads to China, take us through the major divides he's going to try and bridge.
Yes, there has been some tough talk out of Beijing ahead of the visit by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken. Beijing really wanting to get its message out there ahead of that trip. We heard from the foreign ministry official who said that they wanted to make clear Beijing's stance on a number of issues, such as the South China Sea, where Beijing increasingly sees the U.S. being in its backyard, for example, holding naval exercises on the economy, as well as laying out its red lines, including Taiwan. Beijing is also very unhappy with U.S. complaints of industrial overcapacity in manufacturing, particularly in these new energy industries. This foreign ministry official said that dismissed these allegations, calling them outright economic coercion and bullying. He also said that this behind it was an evil intention to suppress China's economic development. So ahead of these talks, we're really getting some tough talk out of Beijing, although they did say they want to also strengthen dialogue between these two superpowers.
Right. Also, Laura, you know, hours before Blinken's touchdown, the Global Times has actually published an article that preempts that Blinken is going to come to issue an ultimatum to China. And China seems in no mood to give in to him, his requests, as they assert that they will not compromise on their core issues.
Yes, I mean, we've just had a tweet on social media by Antony Blinken saying that as he heads to Shanghai and Beijing this week, that they will face intensive face-to-face diplomacy. Ongoing direct engagement is vital for making progress on issues that matter most to the American people and the world. So that's from Antony Blinken ahead of this trip. And the US is really framing this trip as part of efforts to maintain communication and channels of communication with China. And we have seen increased dialogue, especially in the last month, with US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's trip to China. There was also a phone call between President Xi Jinping and Joe Biden earlier this month that follows their meeting in San Francisco last year. And Antony Blinken will really have two key goals when he goes to China. The first of which is getting China on side in stopping Chinese companies providing support to Russia's war effort in Ukraine, and also de-escalating the growing conflict in the Middle East. Both of these areas, China has a growing influence, but really it is about maintaining dialogue on the part of the US. Blinken will also bring up some human rights issues as well. So it really will be about striking a delicate balance on both sides, with both sides looking to put forward their point of view. But the US has said that having candid conversation and maintaining these channels of communication is really something that it sees as being vital.
In fact, Blinken has also said that China is Russia's primary contributor when it comes to industrial support for arms. I mean, from Russia and Ukraine to Israel, Iran, the broader Middle East, as well as the Indo-Pacific and trade issues, the US and China are on a series of collision courses that have sparked fears about military, strategic security, as well as international economic stability, Laura.
Yes, I mean, they are clearly divided on many issues, but I think from the US side, they will be trying to get China on side, particularly in influencing Russia when it comes to especially funding Chinese companies funding Russia's war efforts in Ukraine. I think the US will really be trying to bring China on side and hope that it uses its influence in that area with Russia, as well as in the growing conflict in the Middle East, where China also has a growing influence as well.
Well, Laura Westbrook, thank you so much for joining us on NDTV. Really appreciate your insights into Blinken's touchdown in China.